Hello, friends. Welcome to the LeggLife podcast. My name is Adam.
My name is Sherry.
Sherry Beth, what episode is this?
Number 77.
Okay, let's address it.
We got a call from your mom.
Got a call from my mom.
Yep.
And she said, so I have a question. What's so significant about number 76?
And we were like, what?
It's like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, you just kind of stopped recording on podcast 76. And I was like, nice subtle hint, Mom.
Subtle hint.
So, we're back.
So here we are.
So, hey.
We took time off for the holidays.
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally. The last episode we recorded, I think, was our Thanksgiving, what we're thankful for episode.
Yep.
And we're thankful to be back.
Yep.
So, hi, guys.
Hi.
We've missed you. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
Whoops. We decided to come back in the month of January with a podcast about a topic that is very, very pertinent to us right now.
Yes.
It is January in Alaska. In my opinion, this month and next month, especially early next month, are the most difficult times to live in Alaska.
Yes.
Because of a lot of reasons.
A lot of reasons. It's very dark. So we are like gaining seconds of daylight a day, but it doesn't feel like it. And it's very dark. It's very cold.
Yep. And I think one of the reasons, even though we are gaining seconds, one of the reasons that January feels so much darker to me is that holiday lights are down. And that kind of helps warm up and brighten up so much, not just like our home inside, but part of like the city as well. And it just doesn't feel as warm as December, even though the light's kind of the same.
Right.
And so what we're talking about today has to do a little bit about this. Sherry Beth, what are we talking about?
Seasonal affective disorder.
So our friend Jordy was up here kind of from late December, early January. And while she was here, we were talking about podcasts and topics and stuff. And she was actually the one who mentioned possibly doing a topic on this, or a podcast on this. And we just kind of looked at each other and thought, yep, like, 100%,
sure.
100% we need to.
Yep.
Because this is something that we talk about and deal with every year, along with most Alaskans.
Yep.
And so, Sherry Beth, just to start with, I just want to kind of let you know what SAD is, what seasonal affective disorder is. It is a type of depression. It's a form of depression.
Yes.
Sometimes, I don't know, I've heard it called a lot of things like the winter blues, cabin fever, and it's where you get to the kind of peak of winter and you just start feeling blah.
Yeah, just like sad. I mean, it's called sad. So it's just, you just sort of feel depressed and just not a lot of energy, and all you want to do is stay inside and just sit under a blanket. And it's hard to fight. Like, it's an actual physical response.
So that's what I want to talk about. You did not grow up in Alaska.
Nope.
And so when you grew up in Indiana, again, cold winters, did you deal with seasonal affective disorder pre-Alaska?
No, I didn't even know there was a thing. Like, so obviously, like, the winter days are shorter. It's darker than it is in the summer. It's obviously colder. It gets very cold in upper, like, northern Indiana, and we get a lot of snow, and so like winter, we get real winter, but it's still like I don't know. It didn't seem to affect me much, and so like I really didn't even know that it was like a thing until I came up here.
And since you've been up here, tell me the way it affects you. Does it affect you? What does seasonal affective disorder look like for you?
It does affect me. So I do feel like I have just so much less energy. I'm not really like a high energy person anyway, but it's a noticeable like decrease in caring. I mean, honestly, like I just don't want to do anything, and I'm tired, and it's, I don't know, like I do find myself just really wanting to like sit and watch TV or read a book and just not go or do anything because it's cold and it's dark, and I just want to be inside.
So I think for me, I am naturally not I love to go. I love to do stuff. I love to be busy. And the way I notice it in the winter months isn't necessarily a depression in the way we think of depression. Because sometimes when we think of it, we think of like almost like the depths of despair.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it looks more just like meh.
Yeah.
Almost, you know what I mean? Almost like apathy.
Yeah.
And just, it's not like despair. It's more just like melancholy.
Yeah.
And so that's what I noticed for
I think
me.
that's a good word.
Yeah, I think for me, that's what it looks like is there are a lot of days where I just want to not just not go out of the house, literally not do anything.
Right. I don't want to get off the couch.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I would not get out of the bed if I didn't have to.
Yeah.
And that's normally not me. Like that doesn't happen to me in June and July.
Right.
But in January, it's like most days
right.
I'd prefer to not do a thing.
It's dark when you wake up for an hour plus 2, 3, depending on what time you wake up.
Mm-hmm.
It's dark when you go to bed and has been for 3 or 4 hours. Like, it's just dark. It's just dark.
Yeah, so it definitely affects both of us.
Yep.
And we notice it, and we are really right in the peak of it right now.
Yep.
Once the days start to get longer, I feel like I notice mine start to go away really even end of February as days are getting longer, and it's almost like, there's hope.
I feel like for me, it's like mid to late March.
Yeah, that's probably right. When you're starting to get signs that winter's actually ending.
Right.
Okay.
I feel like because that's when like the sun is almost starting to be up when I'm leaving for work and is maybe sort of still up when I leave work.
Yeah.
And so like I feel like that's when I actually notice it because otherwise it's just dark.
So let's talk a little bit about what you do, what I do. And here's the thing I want to say. Neither of us have gone to the doctor. Neither of us have been diagnosed with this.
Right.
I think most people who live in Alaska are in similar situations as us where you just kind of deal with it.
Yes, but I will say that if it really is like affecting your lifestyle,
yes,
you should probably get some help.
That's actually,
and there are things that can actually help you.
That's what I was actually just gonna say. I'm glad you mentioned that because to remember that this is a form of depression.
Yes, and it affects everybody differently.
Yes, and so if it is the kind of thing that this is affecting you to the point where you're concerned about your actions or well-being, there is never shame in getting help, in getting medication, in getting whatever you have to do to handle this in the healthiest way.
Correct, yes.
Right? And so I just want to put that out there that like...
Please do.
Please do.
Yeah.
But for us, let's talk about you and I, some ways that we handle January, February in Alaska, kind of, again, that melancholy that we feel this time of year.
Yeah, so I think little things, like one of the first things we do when we get up is open up the curtains in the living room. Our living room is east facing, and while it's almost always still dark when we wake up, the living room is the first place that gets any kind of sunlight. Mm-hmm. And so just sort of immediately opening that so that it is available to have whatever sunlight we're going to get.
I have found that for us in the winter, it's so easy to be like, it's cold outside, it's dark outside. When we open our blinds, like that lets more cold in.
We have drafty doors and drafty windows. We live in an old house.
And so it would be easy for us to close our curtains in early December.
And not open them until like March.
Yeah. But like that's true.
Right.
And so that just makes it feel even worse.
Yep.
And so even though there's not a ton of like hours of daylight a day, capitalizing on those is so important. And yeah, for us, you're exactly right. Opening the blinds is a necessity.
Yep.
For sure. What else do you
do? So I have a sad light.
Yep.
Right at my desk. And
we got it this year.
We got it this year. And so basically every morning that I'm working from home anyway, I turn it on and it's on for about 15 minutes, and I could actually set it 15, 30, or 45 minutes at different brightnesses. Mm-hmm. And I'm a wuss, and so I have it on the lowest setting for the lowest amount of time. But it does help. Like I do feel like it gives me a little bit of like extra light that I just wouldn't get the rest of the day.
Okay, so I'm glad you're talking about this because, again, you haven't had it long. You were super skeptical, used it some, and I remember we've had some talks for the last couple of weeks, just like, I don't really know if this is doing anything.
I don't know that it's doing a lot. I don't know that it's like fixing anything, but I do feel like it, I noticed it mostly today because I did have like the curtains open and I sit right beside the window, and I don't actually open the curtains right beside my window because it is very cold.
Yep.
But I had the other curtains open, and so there was a little bit of daylight, but I turned that on, and I was like, oh, it actually kind of feels like daylight.
Wow.
And so, like, I did kind of notice it today, and I was lazy and I didn't turn it back on, but like when it turned, because it automatically turned itself off, and I was just like, oh, it's dark now. And I was thinking like, oh, I should just turn it back on.
Yeah.
And I didn't because I was lazy. But
you're noticing a difference.
But I am noticing that it does make a difference. It does feel like I'm at least sitting near daylight.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things for me, and we'll go back, kind of bounce back and forth a little bit, is I have to be intentional. And this kind of goes back to a little bit like opening the blinds. I have to be intentional to make myself leave the house. There is something to me about outside, fresh air, being in the little bit of light we have, even if it's cloudy, going to the mall, going to the store, doing something outside the house, because I found that I just get really stir-crazy cabin fever if I'm inside in the dark, in the cold.
Yeah.
And I feel noticeably better. I notice my mood change when I leave the house. Now, I'm an extrovert and I already get my energy from other people. So that's true about me all of the year.
Yeah, so it does, I mean, because of kind of who you are and how you get your energy, being inside all day, 4 days on end, is really just not healthy for you. And so it's not just that you're not getting the energy that you need, but you're not even in a place to get the energy, which is outside the house generally.
But I'd say that for me, I notice a dramatic difference between doing that in the winter than the summer.
Yep.
The summer to me is almost like, oh, this is fun. I like doing this. This is great. Whereas when I do it in the wintertime, it's almost like
I have to.
Yeah. Kind of like, oh my God, like I needed this.
Yeah.
And so I think just like forcing yourself, again, is that if we locked our front door January 1st and emerged in March, I think we'd be okay with that. But
I would be.
Well, I know. But it's like we really do need to get out. There is
Yep.
something that is healthy about forcing yourself to go do something.
Yes.
All right, what else? Anything else for you that you do?
I don't know.
I do have one that you do.
Yeah.
And it involves tanning beds.
Oh, yes.
So talk about that.
I do go tanning a lot more in the winter. And before people kind of get crazy, it is actually recommended
by your doctor,
by my dermatologist,
yep.
because of just skin issues that I have. Like, and I'm not sitting in a tanning bed for hours on end. It's 10 minutes.
Yep.
But just that little 10 minutes is actually, I do feel better. It's warm, and it feels like I'm laying in the sun, and it's got, I've got the UV rays that are coming in, and it really feels like I've laid in the sun, and I feel better when I go tanning.
Yeah, that's something that you do in the winter.
Yeah.
In fact, we were just talking the other day that it's like, even for our budget, it's like winter months, budget has to include minutes at the tanning salon for Sherry.
Yep.
Because like that's part of surviving winter in Alaska.
Yeah.
And to that, this isn't something that we do, but I remember this being a couple that we heard about early on in our marriage. So Anchorage has an indoor water park. How do I say this? To me, that idea is kind of gross. You know what I mean? Just like, I'm thinking of like the germs in the urine.
Sure.
And so I wouldn't get in the water, but there was a couple here in Anchorage who would basically buy like an annual pass to this water park, and they would never go and get in the water, but they would go, I think it was like weekly, like every weekend or something like that. In the winter, they would take their books and they'd go and they'd just get one of the beach chairs and they would just sit in there and read.
Kind of in the humidity.
Yes.
Yep. And it just sort of feels like and it's warm in there. And
yep.
Yep.
And that's exactly, I remember them saying that when they're in there with their books reading on the beach chairs, you forget that it's freezing and snowy and cold outside. Right. And I just thought, that's genius.
Yeah, that's really smart.
That's so smart.
Yep.
And so just like being intentional about going to spaces that make you feel like you're somewhere else.
Yeah.
And the next thing
that we do
is actually going somewhere else.
Is actually leaving Alaska. So we do tend to, we do try every year to get out of Alaska sometime in January or February.
Yep.
Just because we feel kind of like those are like, I don't know, there's something about like there's November and December are just as dark, really.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the holidays, and there's things to do, and there's people to see, and there's,
Yeah.
I just feel like January and February are like, oh, there's no more Christmas parties, there's no more Christmas lights, there's no, it's just dark.
Yeah.
And quiet.
Yep.
And so we do try to get out of Alaska and travel somewhere usually warm if we can.
November and December fly by just because of the nature of the season, right? It's just so darn busy. January and February feel like they are 6 months long.
Yes.
And having a vacation somewhere in there.
Something to look forward to, and then something that just gets us out of the
Yeah,
darkness and the cold.
It just breaks up those longest months.
Yep.
And I think that that's one of the things, when we talk about when people are like, hey, we're thinking about moving to Alaska, what should we know? One of the things is like budget for trips.
Budget for trips.
In the winter.
Yep. And honestly, I would say that if depression is something that you seriously struggle with kind of year round, I don't know that wintering in Alaska is going to be the best thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of snowbirds. There's a lot of people that are up here in the summer and they go somewhere else in the winter because it's just too cold and just too dark.
Yeah, totally. Are you noticing first of all, is there anything else that you can think of that we do?
I'm sure there is, but it's just sort of built into like what we do, and I don't know if it's like
Yeah, those are kind of the main things
conscious anymore
that we do to help,
Yep.
that we try to intentionally do. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed the longer, because you've been in Alaska now 19 years?
19 years.
Crazy, by the way.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that seasonal affective disorder is getting worse as time goes on, or is it kind of just like the same?
Well, it's hard for me to tell because my EDS is getting worse as I get older. And so like I am just more tired and I just hurt more and I have less energy, but a lot of that is EDS related. And so it's hard for me to know which is like EDS and which is seasonal affective, and like if they're feeding off of each other. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. It's like, okay, is this because of the darkness and the month and depression, or is this because of like my skin and joints and body?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like today, just being fully honest, I have spent my entire day in my blanket hoodie, and I've just been in pain all day. Like I woke up in pain, and it's just a high pain day for whatever reason. I didn't do anything yesterday or the day before that would cause high pain. It just is. And so today I had a ton of work to do, so I couldn't, but all I wanted to do was just lay in bed.
Yeah.
And just be warm and be still, and I just hurt. And so, like, I don't know how much of that is just dark and it's winter, or how much of it, like, the pain is EDS related, but, like, I don't know if me just wanting to snuggle up and not do anything was, like, sad stuff, or if it's EDS stuff. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think for me, I grew up in Alaska. Family's been here since I was like 3. And I don't ever remember through junior high, through high school, through honestly, even my 20s, I don't remember ever dealing with seasonal affective stuff.
And I don't know it affects children very much.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know.
And so I was trying to think about that wait a second, why now that I'm in my early 40s, and I even remember in my mid to late 30s, feeling like, wait, what is this? Like I feel it increasing. And here's one of the things I thought about. Growing up in Alaska and in my 20s, I did a lot more winter sports, right? As a kid, I played hockey, even going like winter camping into my adult years, like skiing, that kind of stuff. I was always more active outside. And so I don't remember it during those times. It's as I've not like been involved in winter sports that I feel like it's gotten worse. And I'm wondering if that for me is because I tend to be in more often. You know what I mean? Like I'm inside rather than...
So you're feeling the effects of it because you're not like out and busy.
Not active. That's another thing. Like I do know exercise in the winter, and it's so crazy because like what is the month you want to exercise the least in Alaska?
January.
It's January.
But it's sub-zero temperatures and icy and snowy and...
Eat a pizza and watch a movie.
Right.
Like that's January in Alaska. It's just so hard to have any motivation. And so I feel like that's why I've been feeling it more as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
Is that I'm not doing the outdoor activities that I used to do when I was younger.
Yeah.
I will say it is a real thing.
It is a real thing.
And it's crazy because we just talk with friends all of the time, and it seems like almost everybody deals with this.
I do feel like everybody deals with it, adults at least. And again,
Yeah.
I don't know if it affects children, and maybe that's why I just don't ever remember it affecting me in like growing up in Indiana, because I moved up here when I was 21, and maybe I was just too young for it to like affect me yet.
You're a spring chicken
You know?
still?
Yep. So like I don't know if that was just part of it. Like it just didn't affect me because I was young. I'd be interested to know if people like around the country deal with seasonal affective disorder
As you get older?
like as you get older. Or yeah.
Yeah. That is one of the, like, for sure, I think one of the draws. I'm thinking about a place like Fiji where we were at, where year-round...
12 hours of daylight.
Yeah, year-round.
Sunlight. 12 hours of sunlight.
The days are the same length.
Yep.
You don't have these short winter days. You don't have these cold winter days, these dark days. And it's like, oh, God, that would be spectacular.
Yep. And it does affect your sleep. Like, you know, all summer your body's just like, what is sleep? Because it's midnight and the sun's still up.
Go.
Right. And then I just feel like, you know, in the winter, everybody's just exhausted because we've just been go for all summer long. But maybe it's just more that it's just cold and dark.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, that's one of the things when you look at symptoms of SAD, one of the things is a disruption in your sleep patterns. But it's interesting because it's not, yes, it's the fact that you have no energy and you want to sleep all the time. That's part of it. But sometimes it's also like insomnia.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I'm just so melancholy and blah that I can't sleep.
Yeah.
Right? Think of like depression. Sometimes with depression, all you want to do is sleep. Sometimes with depression,
You just can't sleep.
you just can't sleep.
Right.
And this is the same.
Yes.
Because again, form of depression.
Yep.
Gosh.
Yep.
So,
But again, also insomnia is one of the EDS like symptoms, and so like again, like
so
I don't know if it's an EDS thing or a SAD thing.
who knows?
I don't know.
Who knows?
It's all of the things.
Sherry Beth, anything else? Any other thoughts as far as SAD or dealing with like long winter days? Anything like that you can think of?
I don't know. I mean, they are just, I wouldn't say long winter days. It's just long winters.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because the days are not long. The days are, 4 or 5 hours.
It's short winter days, but very long winters.
Very long winters. Yep. So, I don't know. I think everything we've said, get SAD lights, get outside,
Yep.
Get into daylight when you can.
Go to
tanning.
Yeah,
Go to warm places if you can.
And go to like every winter festival. Get out of your house. Go do stuff. I know that it's cold and it's more comfortable to stay inside. But like I think about February when we have like our Fur Rendezvous or Winter Carnival.
Yeah.
How much of a boost or a shot in the arm even going to those events is.
Yeah, because it's just something to do that's outside the house.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I just feel better.
Yeah.
So there you go, friends. That is our episode back after missing 5 or 6 weeks.
Well, sure. But we
Whoops.
would like to know if seasonal affective disorder is a thing wherever you are at.
Yeah.
Or if it's really just like a northern kind of thing. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
So I'm actually curious. So if it does affect you, we would like to know.
And the way that you let us know is you head over to YouTube.
Yeah.
You search LeggLife Podcast in the old search bars. And you...
First,
What do you do?
you're going to hit the subscribe button.
Heck yes, you are.
And then you're going to hit that little bell so that you know when we post every 5 to 6 weeks.
Also, okay, no. We'll talk about that in a second. Because gosh darn it, we're going to be better about that.
I know we are. And then I want you to find this episode. It should be like the most recent or something. And then let us know in the comments.
I love that. Sherry, you know what's really cool?
What?
Over on YouTube. And first of all, we started posting the audio of our podcast over on YouTube, I don't know, a year and a half ago or so, because of our friend Auburn. Mm-hmm. She kind of gave us that idea. We had never thought about it.
It was almost 2 years ago.
That's crazy.
Yep.
And we have over 500, we have 501 subscribers over there.
Oh, that's exciting.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
And I think it's really fun because we've crossed 50,000 listens of our podcast since we started.
Oh.
And that is something, just you guys know, as we think about 2023, things we want to do, continue doing, put more time into. The podcast is one of them.
The podcast is one of them. We're actually going to cut back on videos so that we can have the time and the energy to focus on podcasts.
Because we love this.
Because we do really love doing this.
Yeah. So, friends, we love you guys so much. Again, head over to YouTube. Let us know. Seasonal affective disorder. Is this something that you are familiar with, you deal with, you struggle with?
Do you have any tips and tricks?
Boom. That was just what I was going to ask. Maybe there's something that we're missing, and you are going to be the lifeline that we need to get us through
the doldrums.
The next... We have like 6 weeks.
Ugh.
If we can make it through 6 weeks, we've got this.
Oh, goodness gracious.
And then we only have 12 more weeks of winter. And then, no, I'm just kidding.
Correct.
Then 4 months of rain, and then it'll snow. And then we're back into winter.
Correct.
Blah.
There's construction season in there, too.
Yeah, that's true. There's 90 days of construction. Friends, we love you so much, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Bye.